Who's next? Ben Whittaker has just beaten the toughest test of his career so far in Liam Cameron, settling their rivalry in the process. But this begs the question on who will be the Surgeon's next big challenge as he looks to further his young career. So what's actually next for Ben Whittaker?
And before we get into that, we're Punch Talk and are bringing you guys daily combat sports videos. So if you enjoy the content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel. Ben Whittaker just picked up a very important win for him, silencing a lot of the critics that in that first Liam Cameron fight said he doesn't have what it takes to be a top caliber fighter. He's a quitter. He's not a real fighter. When the going gets tough, he doesn't want to be in there. And he came back in this rematch focused as ever, showed great adjustments with his new coach and Andy Lee, and was able to get Liam Cameron out of there quick in the second round, although controversial because of the early stoppage. It was still a good showing for Ben Whittaker, and it was evident that he had grown from that first fight, in which originally he was struggling against Liam Cameron, slowing down, wasn't really able to put any impactful punches together that could stun Liam Cameron, to then in the rematch being able to catch him quick and get him out of there fast. So this leaves Whittaker with a lot of big options for what he can do next. He's a very hyped up name to potentially be a big star of boxing, but of course we're still a long way from there. He's got to beat some top competition now, and there's definitely a lot of options for him out there.
Yeah, Ben Whittaker is definitely in one of the toughest divisions in current boxing. At least at the top of the division, you got the likes of Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol, even David Benavidez, who is a similar age to the likes of Ben Whittaker at 28 years old. Ben Whittaker's still a young guy for the division though at 27. Most of these guys, the Dmitry Bivols, the Artur Beterbievs, they're either in their mid to late 30s or 40 years old in Beterbiev's case, Bivol at 34. There are still some young guys, hungry contenders coming up in the division. David Morrell, who just took on Benavidez in one of the best fights we've seen this year. He's going to be a problem for the future of light heavyweight, and I feel like that's definitely way too big of a step up right now in Ben Whittaker's career. They're still trying to build him slowly but surely. People forget, but Liam Cameron was supposed to be this easy stepping stone that Ben Whittaker was expected to get through by most people. He was a huge favorite going into that fight, even with Liam Cameron's experience, his pedigree, just having fought so many more times as a pro than Ben has. People have suggested a fight between David Morrell and Ben Whittaker, but I feel like that's probably not the route Ben Whittaker wants to go at this point in his career. Maybe take on a tough veteran who's been here for a while, maybe someone like Lyndon Arthur, or maybe the loser of that trilogy between Anthony Yard and Lyndon Arthur. Still a big step up there, but those guys aren't necessarily the top of the light heavyweight division right now as it stands, but still very tough competition. I think they're still looking to build Ben Whittaker, maybe against a more realistic name, someone who is maybe still a step up from Liam Cameron, but not too big of a step up. Maybe they could go the Dan Aziz route. I feel like that's a good fight for Ben Whittaker right now in his career.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Dan Aziz fight would definitely make a lot more sense than Whittaker already going up against a monster like David Morrell, or even a very experienced and tough guy in Lyndon Arthur. Dan Aziz is 35 years old now and lost to Joshua Buatsi. It would definitely be a good fight for Ben Whittaker to go up against an experienced guy in Aziz, and would still offer him a good challenge and a good fight for learning and a way for him to still build up in his career. As well, Craig Richards is another light heavyweight who's fairly experienced and is also 34 years old now, losing to the likes of Willie Hutchinson. And it's not like he's been able to break out to the top of the division, but would still offer Ben Whittaker a great challenge and would really be able to tell us a lot for where Whittaker could potentially go in his career and kind of what level he's still at right now. But in general, I just think those top guys like the David Morrells is just not the way to go for Whittaker. If you want to keep building him up and allowing him the room to grow, still get exciting wins, exciting knockouts, that can build him even further in the scene, make him more of a household name that is known while still being young. Also, a Zach Parker would be a very tough challenge for him. He does have that one loss to John Ryder, but he's fought some decent guys, so maybe he would still be a little too early for the career of Whittaker, but I think it might be more realistic that his camp decide to go for a Dan Aziz or a Craig Richards right now.
Yeah, it's tough for Ben Whittaker's career because he wants to get that experience down. He has so much less fights than most of the guys at the top of the division, but he doesn't want to go straight into the deep end where he could potentially get put down. He could get hurt by some of the top guys, and you also don't want to go into a fight where you're fighting a nobody, but they can actually fight, and it's not that big of a name. It's not that high of a reward, but they're on a very high level, because obviously they're trying to manage his career very carefully. That's kind of just how it goes at this level in boxing. It doesn't seem like Ben Whittaker is going to jump straight into the deep end like someone like David Morrell did against David Benavidez earlier this year. I think his next fight is probably going to be another builder fight. He still has time, but it's going to be very tough to make it to the top of the light heavyweight division with how many killers are at the top, especially right now, but even in the future. So many rising prospects, so many talented guys on the come up, and Ben Whittaker sure has the skills, has talent, but there are still a lot of questions there about his heart, about his toughness, about his durability. Can he take shots? Can he be in there with guys that are experienced and be able to go the distance, be able to last? It seemed like they wanted a 10-rounder instead of a 12-rounder for that Liam Cameron fight, even though he only needed 2 rounds, so it's not like that really mattered, but just the fact that they were maybe worried about that gas tank could be a problem. We saw in that first fight how Liam Cameron was starting to change the tides and starting to take over, so there are still a lot of questions about Ben Whittaker's career, but we saw in that Liam Cameron rematch, he has pop, he could crack, he hurt a tough guy who had never been put out up until that point in Liam Cameron, who fought some durable tough guys as well in his career. So he's got talent, but they just have to build him right, which they're probably going to do very carefully as they have been doing. But that win against Liam Cameron was huge in his career. He needed to get past that opponent, settle that rivalry after the technical draw in the first fight after flipping over the ring, which it looked like it was heading the other way. So it's tough to see if he'll ever make it to the top of the light heavyweight division, but right now he is on a good path.
Yeah, for sure, and that's why I think there are pros and cons of his latest fight. Him being able to get Liam Cameron out of there in the second round, regardless of how controversial the stoppage was, is a great sign for the improvement after struggling in that first fight. But also the fact that it ended so quickly is we didn't get to see if his cardio improved from the first fight, if some of his more fundamental boxing skills were maybe improved as well. And it was really too quick to tell how big of improvements in his overall game he made from the first fight. So it's definitely not going to be wise for them to push him too early. Like you said, they've been controlling his career very carefully to start off, and I don't see that changing at all. It just wouldn't make sense to, because we did see him just 2 fights ago, literally against Cameron, the first fight, face adversity heavily, and he was just barely able to scrape out of there with a draw. So pushing him into the deep end just wouldn't make any sense and would likely just kill the hype of Ben Whittaker completely. So there's just no reason they would push him down that path.
Yeah, I feel like a logical next step could maybe be a Lyndon Arthur, a Craig Richards, and then he'd be able to secure those big money fights, even huge fights in the UK against like an Anthony Yard, a Joshua Buatsi, a Callum Smith, and start to work his way up the division. But that's looking very far in the future. If he can even make it past the likes of Craig Richards, Lyndon Arthur, if he can make it past that level, maybe beat a guy like Dan Aziz. It's hard to say where his ceiling lies, but I guess we're going to see that in the next couple of years. And while it is definitely important to not just go straight into the deep end against the killers in the division, it's also important to keep improving slowly but surely, building up, getting better, having progression in your career. You don't want to go below this level of Liam Cameron after main eventing, after settling this rivalry, 2 back-to-back fights against him. You want to evolve, you want to grow, you want to get past this. He's already been under the bright lights now. He's had a lot of pressure on him, especially in this last fight. So I'd say just look forward, keep progressing. People are going to want to fight Ben Whittaker because he has a name. He's going to sell. It's going to make interesting fights. Even a fight against someone like Willie Hutchinson would be a fun one. This was a massive moment, a massive win for Ben Whittaker in his career. It's definitely too quick, though, to say that he can be a potential future world champion right now. If they build him right, it's definitely possible, but there's still a lot of questions yet to be answered. So let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you guys want to see next for Ben Whittaker? And if you guys enjoyed, check out the harsh reality of Whittaker versus Cameron 2 on screen now.